Have you ever felt like your veterinary practice is busier than ever? Schedules full, phones ringing, the team is working nonstop, but somehow the business is still not growing the way it should. Well, that's the reality for many veterinary practice owners. Being busy can feel like a sign of success, but if the right systems are not in place, that busyness can sometimes hide deeper growth bottlenecks. Welcome back to the Veterinary Business Podcast. I'm your host for this session, Dan Disha, and joining us for this conversation is Naren Raja, CEO of Echo Marketing and also the founder of the Veterinary Business Institute, a trusted marketing strategist who has helped independent veterinary practices across North America improve their visibility, attract better clients, and of course, build more sustainable growth. Now, today, Naren will walk us through where practices may be losing opportunities from Google visibility and website conversion to client follow-through and the disconnect between marketing and operations. With that being said, Naren, it's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much, Don. I really appreciate the opportunity and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let's jump right in.
So Naren, we're seeing practices that are extremely busy, but not truly growing. What are the most common hidden bottlenecks you're seeing across veterinary practices right now?
You bring up a really good question. There are a lot of practices that are busy, but not profitable. In other words, they are not attracting and retaining those profitable clients. Rather, they're just responding to what's out there. I'll give you a simple example. So let's say you have a new client with a young pet that, and a client who really cares about the optimal health for that pet. That client is going to be much more receptive to being proactive, listening to your advice, doing everything you're going to suggest. And over the life of that pet is going to be worth a lot of money in terms of revenue for the practice, right? Now, compare that to another client who doesn't really, is not putting the pet at the very top. Maybe their financial situation, maybe, whatever else that is going on, and only comes in for emergencies when something is about to break. And they only come in once, they don't listen to anything, they're not proactive, they don't come back. That client is not only very demoralizing to deal with because, they are never happy, they're always complaining, they're always finding fault, and they are not also profitable for the practice. So I think the biggest problem I see is, even before the team gets involved. In other words, the marketing is broken where it's not attracting the right kind of clients. So that's a huge part of the problem. The second part of the problem is, when you have a practice where the marketing is broken and you are not attracting the right clients, the team starts responding to what they have. And usually it creates this negative cycle of doing things that feels like you're being productive and busy because that's, what you're doing all day long and you're busy doing it, but not necessarily, helping the practice strengthen, not necessarily helping the practice become more profitable. So it creates this doom loop of, business that doesn't make things better. It actually makes things worse. So the people are doing low value tasks, administrative tasks, repeat low margin appointments, chasing unvetted leads. So they're doing all these things just because that's what keeps them busy or feels like it keeps them busy. And the doctors, unfortunately, are not really paying close attention to the practice management side. Rather, they are letting some quote unquote practice manager do these things. And so under the surface, there's a lot of rot, if I may. And it starts, like I said, with marketing, and then it continues where that rot is being perpetuated in the practice.
Wow, that's a wonderful insight there, Naren. So basically, it starts with identifying the right clients. And if the clients are not right from the get-go, the team is doing with what they have, just being productive, but not finding meaning and also not being profitable as well. That's a double-edged sword right there. So,
and you see a lot of churn in these practices. People come, people go. You don't really see long-term, employees who are like committed to being with that practice. I have seen the exception. I have seen the practices who don't do this. They start with where they need to start, attracting the right clients, putting the right marketing system in place, making sure, the start of the process is strong, because once the start of the process is strong, everything else can build on it. But if that is broken, then everything else falls apart. Of course, the same practices do hire people who really care about taking care of animals and do nurture them and do train them because they are profitable. They can afford to. They can pay them well. They can give them benefits. The things that the struggling practice that's just keeps being in the survival mode cannot.
That's a great segue onto my next question. So how does a practice identify whether their issue is a marketing problem, an operational problem, or perhaps a disconnect between the two of them?
Yeah, I think a good way to start is to look at the patients you're getting in. How many patients are you attracting every month who actually book? I'm talking about new patients. And look at those patients. Are those the kind of patients you want? Clients you want? Obviously, the clients are the ones who are making the decision on behalf of the pet. Are those the kind of clients you want? Really, if the client is the wrong client, it doesn't matter how wonderful the pet is and how much you fall in love with the pet. It's really, really hard, because it's kind of like the client is the parent, right? You are influencing the pet through the parent. So that's a good audit. Look at the number of new clients you're getting and the type of clients you're getting. And are those the clients who you want? And also look at the kind of services. I know some practices focus on certain high value services where it's very profitable, and it's sometimes, also is long term. So are you attracting the right kind of clients for the right kind of reasons? That's what I would start. And be very honest. Look at your actual numbers and ask yourself, is this number good enough? The right kind of client that I want, am I actually getting them? The second question I would ask is look for the reality in the marketplace. You could attract a client, perhaps because of one particular pet owner who loves you and tells 10 other people. It's usually becoming more and more rare today, because today when we need something, we don't ask people. We go and, talk to Google, talk to AI, and get our answers in our fingertips. So the second place I would look is when someone like you or someone like your client in your marketplace is looking for someone like you, typing in all the different search terms and all the different questions, are you the one showing up consistently? The best practices, the ones that have an unfair advantage, like the one I described, that is very profitable, very successful, attracts the best employees, usually does. Usually whatever keyword you type in, whatever search term you type in, they are the ones showing up. And a good metric is at least 100 different, searches that typical person in your community would do targeting the services you provide. You better show up at the very top. And again, what does it mean today? It's AI search, it's AI overview, all in Google, plus regular Google SEO, plus Google Maps. So 4 different things you need to show up on. And when you do, like we have clients who are ranking for 200 different searches, very popular searches in a city within a year. We promise our clients they'll rank for 100, but definitely with AI, things have exploded. And actually, our clients are seeing a lot more success. You also don't want to ignore platforms like ChatGPT, Perplexity, the up and comers. Of course, still when it comes to volume, they are less than 1 to 2% of actual searches that are happening online, because people are just so used to Google. People use Google 12 billion times a day, and a lot of it is now includes AI search. So I do think definitely focus on Google, because today it's the 95% of the market, big fish in the pond that we want to go after. But of course, who knows what might happen in the future. So you don't want to ignore. So one of the other things we do is, even though these other tools like ChatGPT doesn't provide, insights like Google does with Google Analytics, we manually go and check, are they giving the correct information on behalf of our clients? Are they, ranking our clients for many of the same, type of services and recommending our clients? Remember, when you are recommended organically, whether it's through AI or regular search, people trust you, right? They know you must be good. That's why they even use these, search platforms to find you. So that implicit trust gives you a better benefit of the doubt. The last piece of the leak I would look at is, okay, maybe your marketing is working. In other words, your SEO is working. You're showing up on search everywhere and you are dominating. But the way the phone is not being answered consistently. Like one of the things I notice a lot is a lot of practices don't answer calls. Like 30-40% of the calls are missed. And even when they do answer calls, the average practice is only booking 1 out of 3 new patients. Why is that? There's no accountability. There's no tracking. There's no tool or technology that's listening to calls, that's figuring out how many calls were missed, how many people booked, how many didn't book. And then coaching on top of it. If the average is only able to book 1/3, what if you could change that? What if you could book, 80%? Your business would literally double or even quadruple without you having to spend an extra marketing dollar. And the last thing I look at is just like we looked at profitability, after the fact by looking at the type of clients we are attracting and keeping, also look at profitability of your different marketing channels. If you're spending, let's say, $200 to attract a new client through Google Ads versus through regular search, you're only spending $40. Think about why are you spending $200? And a lot of people don't even know how much each one of these marketing channels are costing. So it's like they're throwing darts. They don't know which darts are, landing on the bullseye and which ones are not. And in the process, they're wasting a lot of money. Like I've seen practices waste hundreds of thousands of dollars, even more, and over a 10-year span, that could be in the millions. So these are some of the leaks that I would focus on, and fix.
Amazing, Naren. Just to summarize that, I will just attempt it. Just say if I'm correct on this. So first, audit the client mix. Second, audit the services, your treatment mix. And third, because of the reality in this changing marketplace and the market search behavior, audit your online search behaviors. And then, of course, auditing calls and then auditing your own marketing, the profitability of it. Did I get them all right?
You got them all right.
Amazing. Right. And now you often talk about the leaky bucket concept, right? Can you walk us through how that applies to websites, Google visibility, and client follow through in 2026?
Think of marketing like a funnel, right? What is a funnel? Where you pour water at one end and then you get water at the other, right? At the wide end of the funnel, imagine like you're collecting rainwater. So you have this huge funnel collecting a lot of rainwater and it's coming one drop at a time. But then you kind of collect it together so the funnel becomes smaller and smaller, and then you pump it through. Imagine there's a leak along the funnel. Now, all this investment you made trying to collect all this water is kind of getting wasted before it gets to the final destination. Why? There are leaks. So what I mean by leaky bucket is exactly that, right? If you imagine the first part of the bucket is you are not collecting all the rainwater. Maybe you have this huge, some kind of a material like polythene, but maybe there are a lot of holes in it. So the water is falling through the thing and they're just, going out. So that's where I would start. Are you showing up and are you ranking and are you dominating? So for thousands of, different searches and different things that people are looking for, you are the one they are finding consistently. So that's kind of the wide end of the funnel where it's leaking. Then I would look at, is the website compelling enough and is your reviews compelling enough for people to trust you? Let's imagine you're collecting all this, people, but the first impression sucks. Maybe your website doesn't speak to them. Maybe it doesn't give them the answers they're looking for. Remember, we have a generation that wants answers in seconds. If I'm interested in XYZ and you don't give me exactly what I'm looking for, I get bored and I go to the next website. Why? Google makes it so easy for me to click on the back button. And even search engines like Google are looking at that and saying, oh, you know what? Your website is not converting. So we will stop sending traffic. So, and there's a lot of pieces to conversion. Like, for example, your website doesn't load fast enough. That's one of the reasons people leave. They just get tired of waiting and people want things to move really fast. Maybe they have to hunt for information and they get tired of having to do that. So those are leaks that you might have on your website. And sometimes your website doesn't work well on the device they're on. Maybe it looks perfect on a desktop, but what if they're on a small phone? If it's not optimized for that small device in terms of the information that's being shown and how it's shown and what font sizes you're using, again, that's a leak. So you have leaks at the wide end of the funnel where you are not even showing up, so nobody can even find you. Second, you have leaks when people do find you, the impression you are creating. And the other leak I see is Google reviews. The best practices I see are getting 5-star paragraph love letter reviews. Why? It informs the search gods of the world that you are somebody worthy. Because, imagine your practice hasn't gotten a review in, 8 months. or only got 3 reviews in 8 months, and your competitor keeps getting 10, 15 reviews every month. If I were Google, why would I send that person to you and have that person be disappointed? You may have been wonderful 8 months ago, but I don't know how you're doing today, right? So that recency, those high quality paragraph reviews continuing to come in, it's kind of like brushing your teeth, or any of those daily habits we have. Why do we wake up and put on a nice dress even when we don't go out? Because it makes you feel refreshed and makes you feel ready for the day, as opposed to you don't brush your teeth, you don't do anything, and you just like really like lethargic and so forth, right? So the last piece of the leak is the phone that I mentioned, right? Everything is working. Your website is wonderful. Your reviews are awesome. But without you even realizing it, this phone leak is killing you. Why? 10 people are calling, new clients, only 3 are booking. And either the phone is not answered, or the people answering the phone don't know how to build rapport, don't know how to make the client believe that they made the right decision in making that phone call. And then there's another kind of leak, which is, the website. Let's imagine it's 2 in the afternoon, 2 p.m. 6 p.m. at night, and your office is closed. Somebody goes to your website. I know you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No, can you expect your team to do that? But you don't even know who these people are. They were excited, no way to contact, so they just leave. What if you have a chat bot? What if you have, something that starts talking to them and starts building a rapport and making them want to come in? So those are the things I would focus on. And those are the things I would really, really, really try to do when it comes to the leaky bucket.
So Naren, you mentioned something very interesting right there with regards to inefficient websites, right? So inefficient websites don't only hurt the user that's trying to get in touch with you, but it also hurts in a way that even Google or AI, when it's trying to determine if your website is a good website. Can you give us a little bit more insight on that, because it's not only people who are looking at our websites nowadays, AI is looking at it.
You're bringing up an excellent point, right? See, Google realizes, remember, Google is the second most valuable company on the planet, worth 4 point some trillion dollars, 4.6, 4.7 when I last checked. And it doesn't have a contract with its users. Like, it has, every one of its products has billions and billions of users, Google Search, Google Maps, etc. But none of them have to use Google. So put yourself in the shoes of people running Google, their search business. What if Google gives them good information, but the websites it's sending them to is the wrong websites? What if those websites are hard to read? What if those websites, don't load fast on every device? Now, you are going to get mad at Google also, right? Think about it for a minute. Why? Because Google wasted your time by sending to your website that made you angry, that made you upset. And you are like, oh, maybe there's another search engine. Let me start looking for something else. So Google, being the one that controls 95% of the market, is trying to mimic what the users go through and expect. And remember, Google has information up the wazoo, where they are collecting information through Google Analytics, through all kinds of places. I mean, they are the biggest player on the internet. They do get more traffic and handle more traffic times 5 or 10 versus most other companies out there. So they know everything. They know everything before it's even happening almost, because they've seen it before. They have seen what good is, what bad is. So they have all these standards. And if you don't follow them and you don't really do what they believe is good for the users, which they know because they have seen billions of users every single day for the last, so many years, they're going to punish you. You won't even show up. So it's almost like they don't even let you in the gate, so to speak. So before you can even get into the gate, you are going to get pre-screened by Google. I mean, it's Google EAT, about your authority, Google, CRUX, and that's what's replacing, Google Lighthouse codes. I don't want to get into the technical details, but if anyone is interested, they could book what I call a marketing strategy meeting, where my team will get into those details and share with them specific things that they can do to, address what Google cares about. And the other thing I notice is we have been doing this for 19 years. We still have clients from, 18, 17 years ago. And in all these years, when you take care of Google, you take care of the other types of search options out there, whether it's ChatGPT or Perplexity. So If Google is happy, everybody else is going to be happy. Why? Because Google is looking for the same thing that ChatGPT is looking for in terms of making sure that people are going to the right websites or the right solutions that won't disappoint them.
Thank you very much for that answer, Naren. Really appreciate the insight, because appeasing Google, or at least what I'm understanding right there, is appeasing the biggest AI platform on the planet Earth, will get you in alignment with every other chatbot, every other search as well, and get you those
and the way to
rankings.
think about it is, most of us, if we do what our family doctor tells us to do, like, he'll check our blood and do all these things once a year, and as long as you do what he's telling you to do, you're going to be healthy. You don't need a specialist to tell you something is wrong with you. So Google is like the family doctor, because 95% of us use it multiple times a day. So if Google is happy, everybody else is happy. And that's kind of what I find. I'm not saying there is a rare disease Google misses, but Google is a $4.7 trillion business. So it is all in one. It's a family doctor, it's a specialist, it's all in one. So make Google happy and you're going to do well. Again, I'm not talking about make them happy for one search term. I'm talking make them happy for hundreds of search terms. So you keep showing up consistently at the top.
Now, Naren, what role does the practice's website play today? Not just as an online brochure, but as that conversion engine? And where are most practices falling short?
You bring up an excellent point. So I'm going to just focus on three key answers. I think most business owners make this mistake. They don't necessarily get into the mindset of the customer, right? Like, they think the way they think. And usually that comes from looking at other people. Let's say there is this famous doctor. They'll say, oh, what is the famous doctor doing with his website? If he's doing it, it must be good. But the famous doctor, just like this particular individual, is also not looking at it from the customer's perspective. So a lot of times it might appeal to you, the doctor, because what you want is there, but maybe you want certain technical terms to be used in the website. Why? Because that's the correct term and that's how to describe it. But the layman's didn't go to a veterinary school. They didn't spend years and years learning what you know and don't know. So they want everything dumbed down. They want everything in grade 5 English. They want videos. They want to go to the right pages. I mean, like, for example, a lot of doctors, when they're reviewing their website, they go to the homepage first and then they click on the different services. They are going top down. Obviously, it's their website. They walk through the front door and they walk through the other doors. But the way the actual searchers or actual users behave is, they walk through the side door. They go to that particular service or need they have. And if you don't even show up, or if you don't take them to the right page with the right information and the right reviews, they say, maybe this is not the right place for me. They go somewhere else. So I think that's a huge leak that you need to fix. Make this a conversion engine. Make this consumer engine where consumers love it and get what they need and decide to move forward versus decide to back off, right? So that's the first thing I would focus on. The second thing I would focus on is just the technical side of it. Websites today are very complex because there are hundreds of different, ways people can use your internet. Somebody might be on a Samsung phone, on Chrome. Somebody else might be on pick some other brand on a different browser. And, some screen is small and 10 years old, and other one is like brand new, and then you have iPads and you have desktops, and again, internet is like all over the place. Somebody's on a satellite phone, or like Starlink, and somebody else is on something else. So Google wants every one of these people to have a great experience, but unfortunately most people don't think that way. So they don't even realize that the website was wonderful and beautiful and perfect on the desktop at their office, and the marketing company did a job to optimize for the desktop they use at the office, but they didn't look at all the other devices. So you might love the website, but there are millions and millions of people who don't, because they don't. Google doesn't even let you in the gate, like I said, and so does ChatGPT and everybody else. So you might be thinking, oh, I love my website and it's the best thing in the world, but nobody's going there because you are not meeting those usability, speed, and everything else standards that these gatekeepers, if I may, the Googles of the world, enforce. So that's the second thing I would really, really, really focus on. The last one is, even Google itself is noticing more and more people want AI answers. Like, for example, you want to know the cost of some kind of a procedure in a city. You don't want to go to 7 websites and figure it out yourself. You want Google to go to 7 website and give you like a summary with links. So in case you want to go deep, you can get the information, right? So in that context, how rich your information is, how linked it is to an expert. Like, for example, you have a degree, you have specific qualifications. If you don't tell that to Google in a way that's easy for it to understand that you are a board certified doctor who's qualified to comment or talk about it, Google doesn't treat you as a doctor. Rather, it doesn't even look at your information. Why? Google doesn't want to get yelled at or be seen in a big article saying, Google sent me this website and this quack said XYZ and now my pet is in trouble, right? Google doesn't want that. I mean, remember, Google has to be right billions of times a day. So if you don't have those qualifications, if you don't use them properly, Google will support. Remember, Google makes 250 billion from ads. So does everybody else, all the other players. So when they make so much money by not giving you free traffic, they have every incentive to disqualify you. It's kind of like getting into a top university, right? Very, very few people get in. Why? They only have so many seats. In this case, Google has only so many seats for people who get free traffic. So 3% of you will get all the free traffic. 97% will be left with no other option but to give Google gobbles of money month after month, or any of the other players, to get paid traffic. So these are the things I would fix. These are the things, make it AI, make it AI ready with EAT and high quality content. Focus on making your website a consumer engine that makes consumers love and want to go further. And obviously pay attention to the technical side. It's not just you loving the experience on your desktop. It's everyone loving the experience on every device, every internet connection on the planet, for you to even be let into the game.
Naren, now, laymen didn't go to vet school and veterinarians didn't go to Google school. So for practice owners listening in right now, this might be great information, but how can they actually put it to practice or might be one of their biggest concerns. So what's the first practical step they should take to diagnose and remove these growth bottlenecks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 50 plus now, and I have been doing marketing for 19 years. And a lot of things that comes naturally to me or my team, because we have been doing it for decades now, is not the way the doctor thinks. And again, just like I will suck when I take my pet to the vet in being helpful to my vet, because I don't know anything about because a vet has seen, pets like mine, hundreds of thousands of times, and they have gotten special education. So the same thing here, right? But solving problem is always the same. Find out where you are right now, because you need to know the starting point. Are you an A+ in all these components I talked about, in terms of, dominating search, dominating Google AI search, all of these things? Are you showing up again and again? So you can spend hours and hours figuring it out, or you can have our team tell you. And then find out why, let's say, I love Khan Academy. When my daughters, this was, I'm dating myself, like years and years ago, were preparing for SAT. It'll say you got 450 or 650, and these are the sections you scored 9 out of 10, and these are the sections you scored 4 out of 10. So go do these practice exams, go work on these sections, and then it'll do a retest on that section. Okay, you're getting 4 out of 10 there. Now you're getting 6 out of 10. And again, these concepts or these part of the section you still need to master. So go do more of those, readings and more of those exercises. Now do it again. Now you're getting 8 out of 10. So Khan Academy helps pinpoint where the problems are and helps a child improve exactly that problem, versus wasting their time doing more practice exams in the sections where they're getting 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Like, you need to focus on the ones you're weak on, right? The second thing that, I recommend that anyone doing this do is look at what is the root cause as to why you are succeeding or why you are not. Whether it's with Google, whether it's with your websites, whether it's with your reviews, whether it's with AI, find the root cause. And also, don't do it in isolation. This is a relative game. It's kind of like getting into a university. Imagine in a particular year, everybody who applied sucks. You're going to do okay even if you're okay, an okay student. But imagine if everybody is extremely good. You need to up your game. So look at your competition. So the other thing I suggest you have someone do is to look at how are your competitors doing. Are they getting an A when you're getting a B for some part of the key components of marketing, or everybody's C and you also C? So that is different, right? If everyone is a C, you just have to do a little bit better to get to a B. But if there are people who are better than you or stronger than you, you need to really work hard and you need to work on the components where you're really weak. So we offer something like this because our clients have asked for it at no cost, especially for our veterinary podcast listeners. It's called a marketing strategy meeting. Perhaps you can put a link. I think the link is veterinarybusinessinstitute.com/MSM. Yeah, a lot of the things you mentioned, right? Like looking at the website as an outsider, as a consumer, looking at the technical side, looking at, are we doing the things to please the AI and Google and other search providers? So those are the things, you need to get done. Typically it takes around 6 hours. We sometimes charge around $900, when people want us to do this as a consultancy. But, because you are listening to this and, we would do it at no cost. So take advantage of it, get that data, and then make decisions, whether it's with us or somebody else. Now that you know why you are not doing as well as you want to with marketing, what can you do about it now?
Amazing. Well, Naren, thank you so much for that, offering our listeners that complimentary marketing strategy meeting. Please do go ahead and make the best use of that opportunity. Like Naren said, veterinarybusinessinstitute.com/MSM. I'll repeat that one last time. Veterinary Business Institute, that's one word, .com/MSM. Get yourself a customized marketing map for the next 6 months to help you identify the best opportunities for growth. So, Naren, thank you once again for joining us, and thank you to everyone listening to the Veterinary Business Podcast. If you found this episode valuable, be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more conversations designed to help veterinary practice owners build stronger, more profitable, and more successful practices. I'm Dan Disha, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.